deep within the shadowy embrace of West Virginia's Harrow Woods, where a thick mist weaves through the towering oaks and pines, Elijah found the beginning of an eerie journey. The forest's ancient canopy, a tangled web of branches, cast a dim, ghostly light on the undergrowth, setting the stage for a tale steeped in mystery. Driven by tales of whispering pines, a hidden community said to exist in defiance of time's march, Elijah, fueled by a deep-seated desire for the enigmatic, ventured into the heart of the woods, seeking truths long shrouded in secrecy. Armed with nothing but his camera and a rugged determination, he ventured into the depths of the woods, guided by fragmented stories of whispering pines, a community so intertwined with the wilderness that it seemed to have become part of the very fabric of the forest. Elijah's journey into Harrow Woods was guided by tales that painted the inhabitants of Whispering Pines not with the brush of ancient rituals, but with the rugged, raw visage of survival at its most primal. According to the locals, the people of Whispering Pines were a fiercely insular group, their lives intertwined with the untamed wilderness that surrounded them. They spoke of encounters with these wood dwellers, marked by a stark absence of modern norms and an unnerving intensity in their gaze, as if they were gauging every outsider as either a threat or something else entirely. The stories depicted these individuals as hunters of remarkable skill, capable of moving through the dense underbrush with an unsettling silence, their familiarity with the land making them one with the shadows of the forest. There were accounts of the eerie, wordless communication they shared, a language of gestures, and looks that bespoke a deep bond forged by shared hardships and an existence on the fringe. But what truly unsettled Elijah were the tales of those who had stumbled too close to Whispering Pines and were met with a hospitality that was as suffocating as it was suspicious, an unspoken warning veiled behind forced smiles and watchful eyes. It was this mosaic of dread and resilience, of a community that had diverged so completely from the known path of civilization, that pulled him deeper into the woods, driven by a need to see with his own eyes the truth of Whispering Pines. With each step, the underbrush thickened, and the air grew heavy with the scent of moss and decay. The further Elijah delved into the woods, the more the modern world seemed to fade away, leaving only the primal and the untouched. The boundary between legend and reality blurred as the whispers of the woods seemed to beckon him deeper, promising revelations shrouded in the shadows of the towering oaks and pines. As the day waned, the forest's embrace tightened, a reminder of the countless tales swallowed by its depths. But for Elijah, the allure of uncovering Whispering Pines' secrets, of bringing to light the stories buried beneath the detritus of time, only grew stronger. Each rustle in the undergrowth, each fleeting shadow, seemed to whisper of the hidden truths that lay just beyond his grasp, urging him onward into the heart of the mystery that was Whispering Pines. Elijah ventured deeper into the heart of Harrow Woods. The civilization he knew seemed to unravel with each step, replaced by an untamed wilderness that whispered of isolation and primordial existence. His minimal gear, chosen to allow for seamless immersion into the forest's depths, seemed almost trivial in the face of the towering ancient trees and the thick underbrush that clawed at his every step. The first signs of the woodland community were subtle. Faint trails not marked on any map, makeshift shelters camouflaged by the undergrowth, and the occasional distant echo of movement that suggested he was not alone. During Elijah's initial encounters, he stumbled upon a group of men returning from a hunt, their rugged appearances and wary demeanors immediately setting the tone. Their clothes were makeshift, pieced together from animal hides, and they carried spears fashioned from long branches, sharpened and hardened by fire. As they noticed Elijah, their conversation ceased abruptly. A heavy silence fell as they scrutinized him with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. One of the men, stepping forward, issued a gruff challenge in a dialect Elijah barely understood, his voice carrying the implicit threat of an outsider not welcome. The air was thick with tension, each man's hands subtly inching closer to the crude weapons at their sides, ready to defend their secluded way of life from what they perceived might be an intruder with unknown intentions. Sensing the escalating tension, Elijah raised his hands in a gesture of peace, his voice steady as he explained his presence, invoking the universal language of curiosity and a quest for understanding. The standoffish demeanor of the men gradually shifted as they recognized his genuine intrigue, not aggression. With cautious acceptance, they signaled for him to follow, leading him through the dense underbrush to the heart of their community, Whispering Pines. It was here, amidst the rough-hewn shelters and smoldering fires, that Elijah was introduced to a way of life completely removed from the world he knew, marking the beginning of his profound journey into the depths of their secluded existence. In the secluded expanse of Harrow Woods, Elijah observed the raw essentials of survival that the community of Whispering Pines had mastered. Hand-carved wooden utensils and roughly hewn bowls were evident, alongside crudely fashioned hunting tools made from the bones and antlers of forest game. Tanned hides from deer served multiple purposes, from clothing to the walls of their shelters. These shelters themselves were simple constructs, blending into the environment with a framework of branches covered in a patchwork of moss and mud for insulation. The scent of wood smoke came from small, carefully managed fires that were used for cooking and warmth, surrounded by stones to prevent the spread of flames. The murmur of voices Elijah caught was not of any discernible language, but rather a series of grunts and gestures, a primal form of communication that seemed efficient among the community members, echoing the raw and unrefined essence of their existence. Within Whispering Pines, Elijah's daily observations revealed a community deeply rooted in survivalist practices. He watched as they skillfully navigated the forest, setting traps and tracking game, with an expertise that spoke of generations past in harmony with the land. Their diet was supplemented by foraged berries, roots, and plants, known only to them, which Elijah was cautious to sample under their watchful eyes. However, as days turned into weeks, the initial wariness of the community morphed into outright hostility. Elijah's every move began to be shadowed with suspicion. Conversations would cease when he approached, and his attempts at participation were met with cold rebuffs. The once subtle guidance to keep away from certain areas became stern prohibitions, hinting at secrets that lay deeper within the community and the woods. Secrets that they were willing to protect at any cost. The transformation was gradual yet unmistakable, a growing tension that paralleled Elijah's increasing unease. The community's dark underbelly began to surface in veiled threats and unspoken warnings, suggesting that Whispering Pines harbored truths far more sinister than the simple desire to live disconnected from the world. Driven by a relentless pursuit of truth, Elijah ventured into the forbidden fringes of Whispering Pines, where he stumbled upon harrowing scenes that seemed torn from the darkest of nightmares. Secluded clearings bore the scars of recent gatherings, with remnants of bonfires surrounded by an array of animal bones and, disturbingly, items that appeared unmistakably human. Tattered remnants of clothing, shoes, and chillingly, personal effects that hinted at a gruesome fate for their owners. When Elijah was caught trespassing in Whispering Pines' sacred areas, the community's leaders confronted him with a grim truth. They revealed their adherence to an archaic and sinister belief system, rooted in a pact with nature's ruthless elements. This pact, they claimed, necessitated offerings to ensure the group's survival and purity, framing their harrowing acts not as cruelty but as vital ceremonies to uphold a fragile equilibrium with the revered and feared natural forces surrounding them. Realizing he was in grave danger, Elijah began a desperate attempt to flee Whispering Pines, which quickly turned into a harrowing chase through Harrow Woods. The community, intent on safeguarding their secrets, pursued him relentlessly, their determination evident in the echoing crunch of their steps behind him. Amidst the dense foliage of Harrow Woods, Elijah's flight transformed into a life-or-death pursuit, with every shadow and rustle amplifying his fear. He darted through the underbrush, the sounds of pursuit ever present, a chilling reminder of the stakes. In fleeting moments of desperate cunning, he used the natural cover to his advantage, camouflaging his presence under fallen leaves or behind the thick trunks of ancient trees, each pause a gamble between being seen or gaining precious ground. His heart pounded against the backdrop of the forest's oppressive silence, punctuated only by the distant, relentless steps of those who sought to silence him forever. Exhausted, injured, and on the verge of collapse, Elijah's luck changed when he stumbled upon a group of hikers, off the beaten path and blissfully unaware of the forest's darker inhabitants. Their initial shock at his disheveled state quickly turned to concern as they pieced together his disjointed warnings. Despite their skepticism, the urgency in Elijah's pleas, coupled with the distant but encroaching sounds of his pursuers, spurred them into action. They offered him the sanctuary of their group and, with heightened vigilance, guided him through the winding forest paths, away from the shadows of Whispering Pines and back towards the fringes of civilization. Back in the clamor of civilization, Elijah's attempts to unveil the truth of Whispering Pines were met with incredulity. Wrapped in the tangible evidence of his ordeal, bandages encircling his limbs, bruises covering his skin, he shared his narrative, a voice raw with the vividness of his memories. Yet the tangible remnants he presented, a tattered piece of cloth, a crudely fashioned talisman, were dismissed as mere detritus of the wilderness. The stark reality of his experience, so vivid to him, was lost in translation, diluted by the skepticism of a world removed from the raw ferocity of Harrow Woods. As the dust settled on Elijah's harrowing tale, the dense canopy of Harrow Woods once again cloaked the enigmatic community of Whispering Pines in secrecy. Amidst this secluded backdrop, two unsuspecting figures, drawn by curiosity and the allure of the unknown, meandered towards the hidden enclave. Oblivious to the eyes that watched from the shadows, their presence marked the beginning of another chapter in the cyclical saga of Whispering Pines, a silent testament to the eerie continuity of its existence, forever veiled from the world beyond the woods.